extra special guest, not necessarily orchestra teacher, but a teacher and one who has done some awesome work in our profession for so many years. And I wanted to welcome Miss Martha Mooke to our podcast. Martha, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. It's really great to have to sit and talk with you.
Absolutely. I've been a fan for a long time, seeing you at ASTA and things, and we've talked a few times here and there, but really want to learn from you today and share all the awesome things that you're doing with eclectic styles, your university program, your outreach, your performances. So just tell us a little bit about you and your background and what you've been doing for the last several decades in our profession.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I always say is that I'm a proud product of the New York City public school systems.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And
cool.
Starting in Staten Island, and that's where I started to play the viola, and I started on the viola. So I definitely would not be where I am without having those programs in the New York City public school. So I'm a big supporter and proponent of public schools.
Public schools, but same here. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today without public school program, and very fortunate to have that opportunity to learn strings starting in 4th grade. And I was the only one in our county that had strings, and I was from Northeast Ohio. And it was really nice. So I totally am right with you on that.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for what I'm doing now to be able to help those programs grow. Mm-hmm. So let's see, I have a master's degree in viola performance, mm-hmm. and that was always going nice and innocently and acoustically and classically.
What happened?
Well, a friend of mine gave me an album of Jean-Luc Ponty.
Yes.
Actually, when towards the end of my high school career, and I would say that's we didn't have emojis back then, but if we did, after listening to "Was a Taste for Passion," and he's playing this beautiful blue 5-string Barkasberry violin, mm-hmm. and my mind just went.
Wow!
And
yeah,
that was definitely the turning point. I can say that I discovered something I never knew. Violins strings could sound like that they could plug in, that they could improvise, they could play all these styles, they could add electronics. It really was a revelation.
Yeah.
And I think within the next week or two, I had my parents drive me into Manhattan when there were still all those music stores on 48th Street. And we went to Manny's, and I bought that Barkasberry, that same blue Barkasberry. I still have it.
You do? Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And so that just set you into a new dimension.
Totally. And I mean, this was back in the turn of the century.
I have a beep button I can pull up if you want to say the beep it out there.
I'm kidding. Just saying, it was before 1990. Uh-huh. So I was 2 years old, and no. Yeah. And we, there weren't all these cool digital effects processors and things. You had to buy all these big
line up the pedals, right?
The pedals, and actually, I don't know if you can.
Sure. I can see your rack. Yeah, the rack system. Yeah, the rack of equipment there for sure.
Yeah, my original Jam Man, my original looper that.
That's the original. Wow.
Yeah, you could do like 8 seconds, but you could buy the expansion to 32 seconds. And my Reese's Quadriverb. I mean, I wrote a lot of my first material on this using this gear.
That's cool.
And then I had to learn how to play it on other gear because gear just keeps evolving.
Yeah. So no, it's getting easier to use and cheaper. So I'm looking at getting a looper and just exploring the different ones, and I've gotten some recommendations from Chris Howes and a couple other people who have used them, and I have to take the plunge and just get one. So maybe you could tell us as a beginner's guide to what to look for and obviously, people will go in and with a certain budget and that kind of thing. So that would
Yeah.
be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, back then there were no school programs that, that could teach you how to play. I mean, maybe there was some schools had jazz programs, but almost no string players
Right. Yeah.
in them. And certainly not working with electronics and and live instruments. And so I really started to explore the realm of electric instruments um, and repertoire. There was no repertoire, so I had to start creating the repertoire
Yeah.
for it, and it was all a big process of experimenting. Also finding, I didn't learn jazz. I wasn't taught, improvisation
Right.
in the jazz sense.
Yeah.
And throughout my career, after I got my master's degree at UMass Amherst, and I had gotten my bachelor's at SUNY Albany, University at Albany.
Okay.
And so also public. I didn't go to conservatories either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to public
Yep.
universities, and because I also was working and running as a stage manager, as a house manager, learning all the different aspects of what it takes to put a production together.
Mm-hmm.
And it really served me well, because over the course of my career, I've also been on a lot of tours. The first tour I ever did was the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber with
Oh,
Sarah.
cool.
And then I toured with Barbara Streisand for a couple of years.
Wow. I bet you have some fun stories.
I have amazing. It was an amazing experience. I toured with Star Wars in concert for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
80-piece orchestra, playing John
Williams. Yeah. Great music.
And high definition screens and lasers and pyro and the whole thing.
Neat.
And so I've really had some amazing experiences that have really informed how best practices, let's say, not only as a performer,
Mm-hmm.
not only as a player, but as a performer, and what it takes to be a performer.
Right.
It's not just the playing.
Well, then you have also composing.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's that whole that's a completely different aspect of music and interacting and distributing and all that. Yeah.
Yes. And that is also something that I work with my students. So something I learned to do was how to notate my music, how to notate the effects, how to notate the new kinds of techniques that I was adapting for my music. I use a lot of percussion techniques with the bow and with my left hand. I've written work for orchestra and concert band as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the electric viola is a transposing instrument.
Yeah.
And so what I need to do usually, if I'm writing for a large ensemble, is to have the line that I play, and then the line that the conductor hears, or that else hears. So when you're using digital effects and you've got some delay on there, maybe some echo, a little bit of reverb or something, and you play one note, the one note doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hear one note.
Right. Yeah. No, when you have an echo, you're going to hear and you don't notate that. You just notate the one note, but you have to put in the notes that you're using an echo or reverb or delay with these settings or approximate settings. Yeah.
And that's where also it's not just da, 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 but I discovered on my experimenting with the different delays that you can have all kinds of rhythmic patterns that emerge.
Right.
And one of the first ones that in the piece I wrote for the first piece for concert band, which I adapted also for orchestra, is called Xing. And that was written for Arizona State University. Cool. And it was a co-commission and also Ridgewood, New Jersey. And and I had to figure out, I plucked one note and I got an effect that said, ba da 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 ba da da. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So then I learned how to notate that for my line, and then I incorporated that into the score so that the acoustic
Oh, wow.
was also doing da 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 at different times.
Right. But yeah, but it has to all line up. That's the challenge. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
but I never, I didn't go to school for composition either. So, it really, my whole career has just been about experimenting and learning and taking the time to try out different instruments. I got early on, I was introduced to the emerging markets at Yamaha, and they were just putting out their first line of, they called it silent violins.
Silent violin, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I got a prototype of it, and I was asked to evaluate it. And I said, I love this. The whole point was, to put your headphones on and listen and not disturb the neighbors.
Yeah.
But I said, I want to plug it in and I want to play it loud.
Too. Yeah. You want to be able to do both.
Yeah. So they had to kind of do a redesign, and that went further, and they invited me to Japan to work with their design team over in Hamamatsu, and out of that came the silent viola, and the electric, what they call the EV series,
right?
Which I still love.
Yeah.
They've moved on from that, but they keep evolving as well.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite instruments behind me, the Yamaha, the YEV.
That's what I have. I have mine here. Yeah. I just bought it. I bought it used. Got the greatest deal, $275.
Whoa.
And it was like brand new. So I was very lucky, and I love it. It's so fun to play, and it's so easy to play. And
it's so I have a few of them, and this is actually customized to a viola length. So,
oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, mine's violin sized.
Yeah, I have a few customized instruments because viola soul. I need that extra length of the C. So over the course of my career as a student, as a professional, I mean, I've played Broadway, I've played in ballets, I've played operas. So I still have a foot in the classical world.
That's
and
great.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have a string quartet that we were just nominated for a Grammy, by the way.
Wow, congratulations. So it was the album that you put out was nominated, or so how did I'm not sure how it all works. So tell us. Yeah.
So Scorchio Quartet, which is a quartet that I put together in 2001.
Oh,
that's a whole other story. That was okay. I'm going to drop some names. David Bowie came to a show that I did at the Cutting Room in the end of the year 2000, and I had this through a mutual friend, and a few days later, I got a call from Tony Visconti, who I had met previously and was doing sessions, contracting. David Bowie's longtime producer and amazing, legendary producer, and Tony called and said, David wants to know if you can put a string quartet together to play with him at Carnegie Hall for the Tibet House benefit concert that Philip Glass produces.
That would be a yes. Yes, I could.
Yeah. I'm like, well, let me see if
That's amazing.
And and that was another one of those experiences.
Yeah.
That I got to work with David, and then we played with him for the next 3 concerts.
It's a great picture, by the way.
Thanks. That was back in Carnegie.
Yeah.
And then we recorded with him on his album Heathen, and a few other projects. So that's where Scorchio started. And then over the years, David did it for 3 years, and then Philip just kept asking the quartet to come back because everybody wanted to play with the string quartet.
Yay.
At Carnegie Hall. So that's just been an incredible experience.
Wow.
As well. And we've played with everybody from Lou Reed, Laurie Anderson, Trey Anastasio, Iggy Pop. It's Rozelle, the beatboxer,
Oh,
and
wow.
who I later collaborated with, and we did a work called Beats Per Revolution for beatboxer, electric violist, and improvising chamber ensemble. So we have strings
Oh,
and
wow.
winds and brass and percussion, and we've done that a few times.
Very
So
cool.
so that's, yeah, I make it up as I go along, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't exist, I make it exist.
That's amazing.
And so a few years ago, I mean, I've been doing a lot of educational events over the course of my career, and a lot through Yamaha and being at the ASTA conferences pretty much every year for the last 20 some odd years. I also have done many of the regional conferences, NISMA, Pennsylvania, and Maine, and many more.
Yeah.
And as well as Jen, and what preceded Jen, the jazz.
For those that don't know, Jazz Education Network. I'm not sure if all the string teachers know Jen, but yeah.
Yes.
Great.
So, and that's where the string presence in the jazz world has really picked up considerably. Over the last 30 years. I mean, John McPonte's been doing this since the 70s.
Yeah.
That's not the first one either. I mean, there's a long line of amazing jazz fiddle players, violinists,
yeah,
and other styles, many other styles, fiddle, Americano, bluegrass, etc. So strings playing different styles of music is not a new thing, but bringing it into the conservatories and bringing it into the legitimate world,
mainstream, where it's into the education area and secondary ed and collegiate world. And so that I guess that brings me to, maybe you can talk about your very unique program that you have at university.
Yeah. So in ASTA, at the beginning, they called us alternative strings.
Right.
Because we weren't just jazz strings. We were
alternative styles, or alternative.
Like alternative styles as compared to what? As compared to classical.
Right.
I think,
yeah. It sounded very
Yeah. And then after, nobody liked that name. especially those of us, that were all alternative. So then they came up with eclectic, and that's sort of still holding. And
do you like that term?
Well,
or do you have something different that you would like it to be called? Or
so one day I woke up and I'm like, I don't sit down to write eclectic music or to necessarily play an eclectic style. And the term multi-style sort of popped into my head, and that was also at the time when I had been asked to put a string program together at New Jersey City University.
Okay.
They had a string program years ago, and it sort of
fizzled.
Yeah. And so when they asked me to refizzle, I said, I'm going to suggest, based on my whole career experience and all the information that I've culled over the years, that we don't need to start another classical string program, because we're right across the river from Juilliard, from Mannes, from Manhattan School, from NYU, and we're
very
on the same
well established,
as other classical music programs. And so I proposed, in that moment, I wrote down a paragraph of what does multi-style strings mean. And it's basically, it was my career, where taking the basis of what the style, I started on classical, but there's players that start on jazz, or they start on other styles, and that doesn't negate them from the opportunity of playing other styles.
Mhm.
And I remember being in a recording session years ago with classical string players, and there was no music in the studio, or they had just, it was like a lead sheet, but it was a rap record,
Okay.
and the classical players, they played the notes because they're taught how to play the notes exactly.
Mhm.
And the producer is like, can't you swing, or can't you, feel it? And it was so far out of their element.
Right.
Um, and so I found it was easier for me to adapt. And so I put I put a proposal together to create a new program that now I've been, impressed by and inspired by different programs, like at Berklee College of
Sure.
Music,
Right.
and out in California, School of the Arts, and things like that. So I know that, and and entrepreneurship programs, music business
Yeah,
programs,
that's important. Yeah.
but they're all sort of, all of these programs at the different schools were different programs, and not
Okay.
necessarily a consummate kind of a program,
Mhm.
or a degree. And so that was really what the intention was. Multi-style string program. Um, we had to revise because the performance degrees were either classical or jazz.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with multi-style, now we have all different styles. And then I have a lot of contacts in the industries, and I called some good friends like Regina Carter and Jeremy Kittle and Dave Egger and Joe Denenzone. And I'm like, I'm thinking of this program. What do you guys think? And they all loved it,
Yeah.
especially because New Jersey City University is a public university, which means it's also a fraction of the
I was
cost
going to
of.
say affordable, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And and there are some scholarships, but the fact is, we have this amazing talent on the faculty. We're literally 20 minutes from New York City, so my
Mhm.
students are in the city all the time,
Yeah.
gigging and going to concerts. And we have things, arrangement agreements with like the New York Phil and the Met Opera, that the students can go and sit in and watch dress rehearsals and things. So we're in a great location. So I can bring people in from the city to come
Right.
and do master classes or guest art, residencies.
Yeah.
We just had the, John Benitez, also amazing Latin jazz bass player, composer, multi-Grammy winning, and he's been working with the students on rhythms, and helping us with some of the concerts.
It's amazing. That's a great resource to have the city right there,
Yeah.
and so many talented folks there that can just pop over for something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have Yamaha has been very supportive, because they've been a real advocate of music education
Yeah.
for a long time. And so I basically brought half of my studio into the studio at New Jersey City University. Now we have a studio that we call the lab, and
Cool.
it's got a combination of Yamaha instruments and other instruments. It's not an exclusive Yamaha
Sure. But they're
school.
they're a big supporter, it sounds like.
They're a big supporter.
Yeah.
Eventide, I have been using Eventide electronics
Hmm.
audio processing gear for many years, and they have been also very supportive. So now we have a lot of, and that's top quality gear.
Right. Yeah.
This is the newest pedal
The
that came out.
H90. Okay.
90. I wish I had it plugged in to show you what it looks like, because it looks gorgeous, and the sound is just incredible.
And is
It's like
that just an effects pedal, or is it effects and loops? Is it just
it's a multi effects,
multi effects? Hmm.
and so it can do uh, reverb. Reverb is incredible.
Uh-huh.
That's one of my favorite. And it's and delay and flange and chorus.
Yeah.
It just goes above and beyond, um, shimmer effects and combinations. And just for me, I sit there either with my headphones on or just exploring, and it puts me in a whole different sonic universe.
That's
And
so cool.
what that does is also, it defies my sense of expectation of what so when I'm composing a new work, I don't necessarily just take a piece of manuscript paper and a pencil,
Yeah.
because I don't know what I'm capable, what sounds I'm capable of producing, of
Right.
creating.
You can't
Therefore,
write that down. You have to listen and
yeah,
go through and figure it out, and sometimes you just discover things, right, that are like, well, that sounds really
oh,
cool. Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Uh, and
So
so I've written some articles and some blogs on how I figured out how to notate what I do. A lot of it has to do with screenshots of, because the control, for example, for a lot of these pedals, you can control it through your iPad,
oh,
or
okay. So it has a companion app.
yeah, and
Cool.
and then and I learned to do this a long time ago. Back before that was notate exactly how much reverb I'm using, how
Right.
much
Setting
delay,
and yeah.
so that if I need to transport it to another piece of equipment, and this is, my hope is that other people will play my music,
Yeah.
but I don't expect everybody's going to have the same exact gear that I have.
Mhm.
So I've always taken notes exactly how much of the effects, what the balance is, what the mix is between the original sound and the affected sound.
Yep.
And it's so much more advanced now than it was back in the day when
Right.
there three buttons and you only had a few different parameters.
Right, right.
So that's another element of what we do in the program, in the
Mhm.
multi-style strings program. And I also, that necessitated creating a new course.
Cool.
They didn't have a course that could teach performers and composers how to um, work with foot pedals, or
Yeah,
work with,
yeah.
even, I mean, Ableton, Ableton Live,
Yeah,
and MSP. Those were just in their infancies years ago when I
yeah.
started, and now you know they're necessities in your
Right.
studio. And it's a learning curve for me because I need to keep stepping up my game.
Yeah. Well,
And
they keep getting. I feel that most of the technology, it gets obviously better, but sometimes it gets a little bit more complex too, and you have to figure out. Okay, there's a lot more menus. There's a lot more buttons. There's all these different things you have to figure out. Yeah.
yeah, and yet that also makes you spend the time with it. I mean, that's how I originally learned, right?
Hmm.
I don't know how many manuals I've read. I really haven't read too many manuals. I
It
like to
just
I
it's
like to
yeah. You like to
experiment.
experiment for sure.
And certainly I have students that are so much more well versed in, with Ableton and with Push and with programming, and incorporating lots of other gear in there, and that's great. I mean, I tell them right away, I don't know all the styles.
Yeah.
I don't, but I can help facilitate you in that direction.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring in the big guns, the people that do have the experience and the expertise in different styles of music. And if
Yeah.
I've students coming in that want to study, some other style, well, we're in New York City. I can call people up and, come teach klezmer, teach, Indian style, teach whatever.
Hmm.
And so that's another advantage of being where we are
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's
uh,
it. Sounds like university has you know really taken to the program and trusting you to build it, and see it grow, and then under with the understanding that you have the connections, and it not anybody can come in and do that, but you have those connections of adjunct faculty and clinicians and things like that that really set it apart from another place or another program.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's where having, team spirit or the um, collaborative ideology. And so they provided and created the opportunity for me it's a brand new program. I
Yeah.
mean,
When did you start this?
so we're in our this is our fourth year.
Okay.
We've graduated three years. 3 years. Well, we started during COVID.
Okay. Whoa.
I
Yeah.
started this putting this plan in place before the fall of 2019.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect timing.
And then, right. Perfect time to start a new program.
Yeah.
And what happened was the master's program took off.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, there's a lot of our listeners are maybe looking for a degree program to do. Obviously, this is a tough one to probably do via like distance learning or online. There's probably there's not that component, if I'm understanding it right. It's all in person.
Mostly,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, we had to do online during
yeah.
COVID, but
And it's a 2-year degree for the master's.
the master's, it's 2 years.
Great. Hmm.
And there is a certain amount of online that we can do in terms of private lessons and things,
Hmm.
but there's nothing that can take the place of coming together
Yeah,
and playing with each other.
that's right.
You just the energy in the room, that collaborative spirit again. My students have been collaborating in ways I don't think they thought they would be.
Hmm.
Certainly, I never, or I couldn't have expected them to be conjoining these different styles, and some of them that had never played with or used electronics, or what they're doing with the electronics now, or
Yeah.
how they're incorporating electronics and improvisation into their work. And and basically it's been word of mouth that people have been finding out about
Yeah.
it. And I found my first student at the Midwest Band and Orchestra Conference
Hmm.
about 4 years ago, just randomly speaking to this
Yeah.
violinist from Spain and talking about this program, and he got intrigued, and he was the first one to sign up for it,
Cool.
and in the first class. And so what that's done also is that it's the word has gotten out. So we actually have more students from Spain that have come over to the
Oh,
program.
wow.
We have a presence in Peru. We have a bunch of Peruvian students. We have now a student from Turkey and Brazil coming in. So
Fantastic.
as well as, New Jerseyites
Right.
and a couple of people from Texas, et cetera. So it's really become a place, a global collection, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And,
fantastic. That's
and
fantastic.
the other thing that what happened when we were starting this, and why the master's degree happened first, was because of what happened to all the school programs during COVID. And
Hmm.
it's now taken a few years to start rebuilding those programs, because even that you could do a certain amount online.
Yeah.
Um,
But it was awful.
yeah.
It was awful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another conversation I'd love to have with you at another
Sure.
time. But yeah, so now is when and you can speak to that, what you've been doing over the last few years to rebuild your program.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a behavioral, habitual, building good habits. It's technical. There's like all these components that we're really having to focus on in different ways. And depending on the year of the kid and even the class that comes through, like every class is just a little different. Some of them require more of this. Some of them require more of that. So it's really interesting to see the differences, and then just try and find strategies to get them to come back, back to
Yeah.
where it was. I think we're getting there, but it's taking a long time.
Yeah.
Taking a long
Yeah.
time.
And so I started a summer program. Just it's like a week long.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you have something that's like more PD based rather than like a degree. So tell us about your summer.
Yeah. So I started the multi-style string symposium, and that's it's a 3 or 4 days. Professional development teachers. It started out just for music teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And the first year we had Regina Carter and Jeremy Kittle and Dave Egger and myself. And the second year we had Joe Denenzone and his Sweet Plantain Quartet. And so each year is a different focus.
Cool.
And this past year we had Tracy Silverman.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. I've actually talked to him a little bit and wanted to get him on here too, so he could talk about his tromboning method and all that. Because it's really interesting and really cool so yeah. Anyways, so
Yeah.
I bet that was just awesome to have Tracy there.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It really was amazing. And we opened up for the first time to high school and college students to be able to come in.
Perfect.
And then we also ended up with.
So was that like high school, college students along with in-service teachers at the same time? Cool.
Yes.
So everybody learns together. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was really a great way of for them to not just networking, but learning from each other too. Because there's a lot of people at different levels, different skill levels,
Mm-hmm.
different experiences, and then we ended up with some a program from Jamaica, the country of Jamaica, that wants to start a string program over there. Sent some of their teachers to learn from us, and now we're collaborating with them and starting a string program over
Very cool.
in Jamaica. So each year it evolves, and then just because of the feedback that I get each year and we've had people that come back again and again.
Yeah. Well, and if you have different guests every year, it's never the same thing every year.
Right. And now we've incorporated performing, and Tracy's just amazing. So he, talking about improvisation and strum bowing, and so it was a very intense and.
Yeah. And when is it? Is you have one scheduled for this summer?
We don't have the dates set yet. Usually
Okay.
it's either at the end of July or beginning of August.
Okay. Perfect.
So that's to be determined.
Yeah.
But we've also started to do symposiums for middle school and high schoolers, where they come to the university. And we did our first one in October.
Nice.
And we had 300 students.
Wow.
Just from was mostly schools in New Jersey. We had a few from the city in Westchester,
Mm-hmm.
Long Island, and these are the string programs that are being reinvigorated.
Good.
And they were I think they weren't sure what to expect, and it was a partial concert. So we had I played, Joe Denenzone played, and some of my students, so they were hearing electric instruments with the electronics, with backing tracks,
Yeah.
with just other ways of creating music and performing music,
Things they may not have heard before.
right?
And things that might inspire them to want to do that or explore on their own instrument.
Yes.
I know a lot of my students are afraid, to break out of the mold of I'm reading a piece of music and it goes from here to there and that's what we do. And so for me, it's one of those things that I try to get my kids to kind of think differently and not be afraid to play off the page. And so I took them. We took a trip to Asheville last year, and we had a 4-hour workshop with Chris Howes, and it was just off the charts amazing. The kids just loved Like
Yeah.
we didn't have any sheet music at all, and he did 4 hours with them, and they couldn't believe by the end they were playing stuff and feeling
Yeah.
really, really open and free, and it's just a great feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so another thing that I do is I, create, we need repertoire.
Mm.
So I'm a big fan of this Cuban salsa reggaeton band called Gente de Zona.
Gente de
And
zona.
in fact, when I was on Tracy Silverman's podcast, I'm like, Tracy, and he asks, what you want to jam on. I'm like, I want to jam on La Gozadera. And I'm still obsessed with it. So I actually created an arrangement for string orchestra that we did at the symposium with Tracy.
Oh, nice. Is that available to look at or
It
purchase?
is
And
available, and we're also going to do. It got accepted to do a reading at this year at ASTA.
oh, great. And is that available? Is it available through one of the major publishers, or are you self-publishing, or?
It's self-published, and I'm going to send you the link so you can.
Okay. 'Cause I have your website pulled up here is it on your website?
It's so new that I don't know if it's
Okay.
on the website yet.
Okay.
But
But yeah, send me the
it's
link and
all
I can.
over Facebook. Oh, yeah, my bad. I also have different ways of procuring the score and the parts that also come with coaching,
Mhm.
virtual coaching, or even performance where I'll come in, personally coach and perform with the students.
That's great.
And we had claves going, we had egg shakers going. Then we ended up with everybody dancing around. There's a video on my YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
So and the information is there, but I'm going to shoot it over to you.
That would be great. I'll put it in the description of the video here. I can do an edit on that and put that in there. Very cool.
Yeah. So I talked a lot.
It was all great. So inspiring to know that there's some really different things out there that I think a lot of us get just into this mainstream of doing the same things. So I think this is really cool that you have this offering and this interest for something that's just completely different from what most people know, and that it's starting to become more widespread. And thanks to the work that you've been doing all these years, like I said, over the years, I've been to almost every ASTA conference since the very first one, and I always see you there. And you have great information to share, and it's just really cool. So I appreciate you being on the podcast today.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. And anybody has any questions, about the program, about multi-style string playing, they're welcome to get in touch through my website. I'm on Instagram at Elec Viola.
Elec Viola. Okay, cool.
Elec Viola, and then everybody cross your fingers that we win a Grammy.
That would be amazing. So when are the Grammys?
So the Grammys are February 4th.
Okay.
Sunday, February 4th. And I started to say my string quartet is featured on this album of music by Carla Patullo, who is an amazing composer that I met. We met during a film scoring workshop years ago. And she's mainly known as a film composer. She's based out in LA. And this project came out of a big life-changing moment for her.
Okay.
Where she had an illness and
Yeah.
she wasn't sure if she was going to make it through.
Wow.
And so she was inspired to just the raw energy that comes with being in that moment, and created a beautiful album called So She Howls, and where she's singing and howling. And I mean, not it's gorgeous. Cool. And full string writing. She's got a choir from LA, Tonality on it, and it got nominated for a Grammy in the new age category, new
New
age.
age. Okay, so we'll be looking for the new age category, and you guys are going to be on there.
Yeah.
That's going to be
And
great.
it won't be on the, the evening show like that
Right, the
everybody.
TV. Yeah, they don't get to put everything on there,
That's like,
unfortunately.
yeah, that's just the very
Yeah,
top
yeah.
of the feed. But they have a wonderful ceremony for the rest of us.
The rest of
So
us.
by that time, hopefully we'll have one there. But it doesn't,
Yeah.
either way, the joy of being in the studio and collaborating with my quartet, with Carla, with the other musicians and producers. That's really what it's all about, and to keep those keep the possibilities open,
Hmm.
and keep those boundaries um, murky.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's limitless what you can do when you start.
Yeah, and
It really is.
you never know. And I always say, there's something out there you don't know, that you don't know that you're missing it, because so
Yeah, you got to keep an open mind and
say yes,
yes,
collaborate.
yep.
I mean, I got to do a show, a duo collaboration with one of my idols this year, with Laurie Anderson. We played at the Cafe Carlisle, and she
Mm,
was somebody that influenced me from way back.
yeah,
Same time as Jean-Luc Ponty, and to be on the same stage with her, and having that collaborative um, back and forth. In fact, we're going to be playing together again at the end of February at the Tibet House concert,
mm,
Carnegie Hall. So I think it's February 26th. So anybody in New York, my Scorchio Quartet will be up on stage there backing whoever everybody,
right. That's amazing.
and playing with Laurie. So
Yeah.
so stay in
It's cool
touch,
when
right?
you're like, because you're a superstar, and then when you get to meet your idol, it's like, wow, like that's just really cool. It's
Yeah,
really cool to hear that.
super cool.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much, Martha, for being here. And I hope this was, for everybody listening, I hope this was a fun to hear Martha's story and learn about what she's done, and just kind of think about strings in a different way. But the multi-style strings is super awesome. There'll be a bunch of great sessions at ASTA on this topic as well, and multiple topics. You definitely want to check it out. So, but thank you so much for being here again.
Awesome, my pleasure. I look forward to seeing you there, Charles, and anybody that's watching this, give a shout out, and look forward to seeing you in the world of multi-style strings.
Awesome. Thank you again, Martha. All right, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching our episode 68 of the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. We will see you next time. It's a crazy time in the teaching world right now, with everybody getting ready for adjudication and whatnot. But I hope that you'll enjoy your 2024. We'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in. For resources and more information about the Orchestra Teacher website, podcast, and YouTube channel, visit www.orchestrateacher.net.